are addicted to toxicity? Do you think half of the problem is people are actually addicted to toxic behavior? It's like the go-to. So my first question is, one, that question. Do you think people are addicted to toxicity? And then I'll go, I'm going out of order, but I kind of want to get that first because I think that that's the overall question of the night. So what are your thoughts?
I'll say this. I personally don't think that people are just waking up and saying, you know what, it's Tuesday. I want some toxic relationships. Let me go out there looking for the best toxic relationship out there for do and go on my way. Like, I think that people come together and somehow there's some type of either a toxic situation, a toxic person on one side, on this side, and it becomes toxic and they have to decide whether or not they want to stay. But I just don't think people are out there looking like, I see Hinge. You know what? Let me find the most toxic man out there because that's the man for me. Like, yeah, I don't think people are just looking for it like that personally.
But I do think that toxic people are drawn to each other, and because they like that drama, they enjoy it. They thrive in it. I've been in relationships in the past where it's like, if we're not having drama, is this really exciting? Is this something we want to do? But I've outgrown that situation. But I do think that's something that people are attracted to each other. They're both toxic. And it's not healthy.
I've said this before on the panel, that people are trauma bonding. So you got two hurt people getting together, getting into a relationship, and they're projecting each other's pain on each other. So what do you have that comes out of that? A toxic relationship. But I think a lot of people are in denial about their toxicness. So you got to first understand that you might be the problem. Men or women, you might be the problem. And then you have to figure out how you cannot bring that into a relationship. You got to heal first before you get into these relationships. Two toxic people will never have a successful relationship.
So I also think that people don't know they're toxic. Some people just don't know that they have toxic behaviors. Unless you're told, you won't know. You think what your normal is your normal. So, for example, I'll use myself as an example. I grew up in a household of poor communication. So growing up, the way that my family communicated wasn't a healthy form of communication. I didn't know until I moved out and started living with roommates that the way I communicated and the way that I isolated myself and the way that, I functioned at home with my immediate family wasn't normal. So I think sometimes also identifying those toxic traits, it has to be brought to your attention in order for you to even realize that you're toxic. But I agree with Tam, that does connect. They do find each other somehow.
I think that a lot of times, especially women, they feel that if their man is toxic, that they don't love them. Like, oh, my man, if he don't, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but if he's not like beating on you or whatever, it's just like, oh well, he loves me. That's why he's beating on me, because he wants me to do right. So that's how I feel. Y'all don't.
I had a
No, I get that. I get that.
Like if he not hitting me, then he don't love me.
There was one friend like that in college who was addicted to toxic relationships. She, very smart, beautiful girl, athlete and everything. But she just kept on dating this guy who wasn't even in her school, but lived outside of the school. But she allowed the relationship to take control of her to the point where she had to move back home. Like, he was driving her car. Like, he crashed her car. Like, I mean, the stuff that she dealt with, but she kept on going back. But I never understood, and this is where she and I kind of butted heads at times, because I never understood. Yeah, we were in college, but you're so strong and rah-rah about. She got into a fight with some other girls at another school at a party. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. And she was so rah-rah about fighting, women and having, like, clapping back if somebody said something about her relationship. But when it came to him, she was so submissive and she kept on going back. And so I never understood it. So yes, there are some women who are kind of drawn to that and feel like that is a form of love. I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago about when you don't have a certain figure in your life to help you see what is the right way. And maybe she came from a trauma-based house and only saw abuse, and so that's all she knew. I don't know, but sometimes it's a pattern, and people see it and they think that that's the norm, and so that's why they stick with it. But yeah, I didn't understand. And yeah, just to go back to what T-Bomb said, yes, there are people like that who do are drawn to it.
So right now, actually, that ties into, I'm reading a book called All About Love by Bell Hooks, and it actually ties into that, Juicy J, where love is not supposed to be tied to trauma. And that's how people are learning that love is supposed to hurt. For example, if a man hits you and says, "But I love you," so you're associating that pain with love. So as you go through life, that could be how that trauma is tied to it. Like, if you're hurting me, then you love me. That explains what T-Bomb was saying. Similarly, like, it starts in, like, the book starts in your childhood. Your mom beat you and said, "I'm doing this because I love you." And I'm sure, like, in a Black home, that's not uncommon, that, you did something wrong. "I'm doing this because I love you, and I want you to change this behavior because I love you." So they beat you. But associating being beat from a young age with love, it ties into, you are going to continue to have that in your life. It's a psychology book, which is actually very interesting, but it's called All About Love, and how people express love based on their past traumas, or what they think love is based on what's happened in their life.
Do you think that people outgrow toxicity, like with age, with experiences? Do you think that we outgrow that?
You
I
just
think
get
we
tired.
outgrow it through experiences. Like, you live and you learn and you choose better for yourself. To some of y'all's points, the whole trauma bonding and, your experiences as a child and how you associate and what you associate certain experiences to, that certainly plays a role too. And I think, at some point you just have to make the conscious decision to choose better for yourself. You see that other people don't move that way. And it's like, well, why do I keep finding myself in these kinds of experiences with these kinds of toxic people? And it drives you inward to be like, okay, what is in me that is attracting me to these kinds of, experiences? And I feel like from that is where, that whole revelation comes from. And I can speak to, experience for myself from having, those moments of awareness where I'm like, whoa, I see things completely differently than what I did before. And now I don't have those same experiences anymore because I'm not the same person. So I don't attract that anymore. So yeah, I mean, trauma bonding is real. I think it starts from, the individual for sure.
Healing, Mika. Healing helps you get out of the continuing patterns. So if you go to therapy and you are healing and working on yourself and self-love and all those things, you tend not to want to be in those toxic and just situations that don't make you feel good and bring positive energy around you.
And you get a chance to notice more.
You have to have people hold you accountable. If you have a group of friends and your friends see that behavior in you, but no one is saying anything about it, like, you're a part of the problem, because you are who you hang around. So if I can't hold my friends accountable when their behavior isn't up to par, it's like, what type of friend would I be? I think most people, some people probably do grow out of it. However, some people aren't faced with it until someone calls them out on it, whether it be a friend, a family member, or even a new person that you're dating that sees this behavior and is saying, this is unacceptable and I'm not going to tolerate this. At some point, you got to figure it out.